At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Executive Mansion. As always, it's wonderful to be back. And today is November 14, 2025. Wherever you are, however you're listening, I'd like to thank you for joining. If you're watching this via online platforms or radio or any other means in the counties in the diaspora, I'd like to welcome you to this edition of our weekly press briefing. As always, it has been a really busy time for His Excellency continuing to work for the Liberian people and working on the issues relating to what he looks forward to doing every day in the Republic. I'd like to start off by announcing that His Excellency, or before we go there, we normally welcome reporters who join us. And I'd like to, in this manner, welcome Mr. Miayandi Togben, I hope I called your name right, of the Variety newspaper. Welcome to the Executive Mansion Press Corps. It's a team of journalists, both local and international, that cover the presidency. And we're here, the team will welcome you as they always and connect you with their colleagues. As I was stating, as always, it's been a very busy time for His Excellency working daily and for the people of Liberia. The President has appointed new officers in government, including two institutions, the LRRC and as well as the Bureau of State Enterprise. The appointment includes Honorable Vali Sano. Vali Sano has been appointed as Deputy Executive Director for Operations for LRRC, while Mr. Joseph Boyer Cooper have been appointed as Deputy Director for the Bureau of State Enterprise. These appointments were applicable as subject to confirmation by the Liberian Senate. In addition, earlier during the course of the week, or prior to after our last press briefing, His Excellency the President did submit to the Liberian legislature a very forward-looking and for the first time in our country, a budget has crossed the billion mark, and under the administration of His Excellency Joseph Boakai. And the President sees this as an ambition or ambitious idea to work for our people, especially so doing all the President can to be able to implement programs within the arrest agenda for inclusive development. So the 2026 budget that was submitted by the President through the Minister of Finance, Development Planning is currently before the National Legislature and is expected to be deliberated on. And the President asked the legislature to do all they can to do the due diligence and ensure that the budget is passed so that programs, especially those forward-looking infrastructure development programs that has been highlighted within the budget, can be pushed forward, because for the Liberian people and for our President, it's important that these things are done. Talking of infrastructure and the different activities of our President, earlier during the course of the week, the President did welcome the team from the CLSG, especially one of which Liberia is a member of. A delegation was in Liberia, the Transco and CLSG, to really talk about Liberia's role and how is Liberia faring when it comes to our contribution, but also access to electricity. The team had a very engaging meeting with His Excellency and seeing where Liberia stands and what Liberia can benefit, especially on the mark of us approaching our dry season. We know during the course of the change of weather from rain season to dry season, sometimes we have challenges when it comes to electricity. And then the team at LEC normally does the power sharing or shedding, the distribution to one community and then other communities. So a number of things were discussed in that meeting, and I can announce to the public that the prospects are high, and going forward, especially the different projects that's coming upgrade to support the LEC power generation and distribution operations, and the President is upbeat about it. Additionally, in an effort to ensure that local manufacturers and manufacturing programs and activities are beefed up, to really ensure that issues of local manufacturing are high on our agenda. And I'd like to just take a very brief excerpt of what this means and what are the key sectors or the key areas of investment that this executive order will look at. Executive Order number 156 is extending Executive Order number 135, which established protective and stimulative measures for local manufacturing in Liberia. And the renewal of this executive order is pretty much in the government process or support to protecting the domestic industry from unfair competition posed by imported goods that are locally produced as well. And this executive order that is issued under the authority granted by the Constitution of the Republic is to introduce updated local industrial development surcharges on selected imported products that threaten the viability of Liberian manufacturing. So this, with the Ministry of Finance Development Planning, has been mandated to disseminate the applicable rates and affected product categories to reflect the relevant stakeholders and ensure that they're involved. So among some of the items, I'll just list very quickly some of the items that were looked at in the executive order. They include the surcharges on flour. As you know, earlier on, a couple of months down the line, our president working with his vice president to ensure that commodities on the market are reduced, the committee that was set up by him and headed by the vice president. One of such was to ensure the reduction of the price of flour. And here in this executive order also emphasized that. So the commodities include flour, biscuits, soap, tissue, soft drink, menthol products, among others. And the measures are designed to create a level playing field for Liberian manufacturers in strengthening local value chain and encourage investment in the domestic sector, and also job creation for the community, and especially our young people. Also, our president, during the course of the week, spoke at the 71st graduation ceremony of the Foreign Service Institute. As you know, the Foreign Institute is a Liberia premier institution that trains our diplomats and people in the foreign sector representing our country, or training young people in our foreign service industry to be able to represent the country in and out of Liberia in the different areas. So the president spoke and delivered the key message to the young people, but focusing on for them being the change and contributing to our image globally, but also when they're given the opportunity to serve, they should serve diligently. Moreover, the president, in continuation of his appointment, as I mentioned earlier, which this appointment came quite shortly, also have appointed Councillor Emmanuel A. Tule as the chairman of the board of the Liberia Institute for Public Administration. Earlier on, you had Dr. Cassell, who served as the chairperson of the board. She's been appointed to the Commission on Higher Education. Dr. Henry Tokba also is now chairing the board of directors of CARI. as well as the reactivation of the National Bureau of Veteran Affairs. He reactivated it by appointing leadership inclusive of Attorney Major Jackson Morlu, Director General, Major Fred Isaac Smo, Deputy Director General for Administration, and First Lieutenant Isaac T. Wallace, Deputy Director General for Veteran Affairs. It's been, as I mentioned, a very, very, very active time for His Excellency. He was also paid courtesy visit by the ECOWAS Court of Justice, especially the President, Honorable Justice Ricardo Claudio Monteiro Clogav. I hope I got the name right. Quite a tongue-twisting name. However, the visit was marked by our President giving update on his work on the rule of law and the justice area, and seeing the support he's been giving to especially the team at the Office of the War and Economics Crime Court, but more so how ECOWAS can support our justice efforts, how ECOWAS can support, the different work the country is doing on the line of reconciliation, on the line of justice and access to justice, and the collaboration that's necessary. As you all know, on yesterday, our President dedicated 35 new buses to help enhance transportation in and around the country. And the occasion is the President's way of beginning a long process of helping to ease transportation for our people, both nationally and in the counties, but also this is the beginning of improvement of the road connectivity, connecting our people to markets. And this is the beginning. And the President also announced that this long-awaited, long spoken about yellow machine will definitely come. So all the President's efforts in the reduction of pricing of gasoline on the market, as well as ensuring that buses are made accessible and people are able to commute from where they are to the market, to the workplaces. These are all, quote unquote, the bread and butter issue and the solution that our President is seeking, while at the same time working on a long-term effort. There are short-term development initiative, medium-term and long-term. And the long-term will be where our roads will be pliable and stations for buses and trains and other transportation systems will be in place. But these short-term implementation of providing transportation and upbeefing the transport sector, it's really going to be something that the President is going to do from time to time. This is the first phase of a fleet of buses, about 60 of them that's supposed to be coming. This is the first phase, and we're looking to ensuring that this can really be of help. For our President, I know there have been a lot of conversation around all the other administration that came with buses, even the administration of former President Sirleaf, where our current President was the Vice President, yes, and the past administration as well. However, the difference between then and now, the President is very keen with this current team at the NTA to ensure maintenance at high quality, because for our people the issue of maintenance has been a challenge, and for His Excellency, he's really very keen on his institution, the people he has appointed in those various areas, to work really hard to maintain the buses so that they last, so that they serve the people. But the other thing, again, is to ensure that they commensurate with international standards, and the team at NTA are working really hard so that the regular will have a system, integrated system, where you have a cashless system where you pay with a card, a Tom card you can use on the bus, and then at a certain age you will be able to ride freely, and you really want to let the Liberian people know this effort is the beginning of a long and improved effort in our transport sector. Also yesterday, as you know, prior to yesterday, one young man who have been or was a very strong supporter of the President, but also a technocrat who unfortunately lost his life. Our President went to sympathize with the family, and we did announce it here prior to now, but he went yesterday to sympathize with our late brother Amadou Yaya So in the Benson Street area. The President expressed his condolences to the families and friends of our dear brother, Honorable Soul. May Allah have mercy on him, and may his soul rest perfectly, and may Allah give him Al-Jannat Firdaus. Our President is really happy to announce to all of you that what he's done so far, the activities of the administration, and going forward, there have been lots of progress, and he's insistent on doing all he can for the betterment of our country, and he will not relent until Liberia becomes better than he did it. So I will pause here. Should you have any question, comment, as always, kindly state your name, the institution you represent, and your particular question. Thank you and good afternoon. Yes.
Good afternoon. Yes, my name is Prince Sa, and I report for the newspaper. Yesterday, President Ouattara was moved by citizens while riding one of the newly commissioned NTA buses. What is the official reaction of the presidency to citizens warning President Ouattara during the bus? And two, does the president interpret the warning as public dissatisfaction with his leadership? Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, I can tell you, even though I personally wasn't on the bus ride, but my team was on the bus ride, and we did follow because we're here in the office busy with other national issue. But it was just a very small number of people as compared to the number of cheers, the number of excitement, the people who were very happy to, for the first time, see the president taking a public transportation, one, but two, see under 2 years what the president have been able to do, especially on the mark of public transportation, being able to, revamp an entity that was or have been funded through national budget from past administration, and saw how it was dilapidated, burned down. That NTA was almost closer to an NTA that was marked by or things that you saw there, burned down buses, broken down buses, no more NTA buses. You can't see anything. Literally, the structure was, portion of it was burned down and looking filthy. And in less than 2 years, to take it from where it was to where it is now, and being able to put transportation, 35 buses on a Miro, people were very happy. I can say the number of persons who were happy, the number of chairs that were there, the number of people who were clapping, people who were waving and excited, they outnumber a few people who had, of course, we live in a democratic space. We live in a space where people will have different opinion no matter what you do. And I've said this a number of times in different interviews, even here, that no matter what the president does, there will be people who disagree with him. And unfortunately, that's how democracy works. And the fact that people express, their views or, did what they did, I mean, the president does not see that as a disagreement, but in fact, it has even energized him more to do more to ensure that the people he's appointed to NTA to maintain the buses and do well and show that the counties have means of transportation, that roads are passable, that people can take buses from Monrovia to as far as Grand Crew and back and other places. For him, his interest is making Liberia better. So the number of persons who were very happy with him, even if you watch the live video, the comments and the commendations were even more than the people who condemned or people who were booing, because we live in a democratic space, like I've mentioned. There are people who didn't support him. It was almost a balanced electoral result. So no matter what, people will still not like you. But he doesn't really give that high credence. But he wants to let all of us know that, in fact, he's going to work more. He's going to do his best to make sure Liberia becomes better or is better than how he met it. Yes. Please, Lois, please. You want to hold the mic, please? Yeah.
Seem to be corrected. the family president address at the NTA, trying to do a script. And then the president talked about EcoBank financing the acquisition of the buses. And then he also talked about they are also financing the yellow machine process. So I actually want to get the understanding of what he was actually trying to say. EcoBank is the one financing the buses. And then secondly, he talked about having the smaller buses. Is there any formal plan for the smaller buses to be in Liberia? If so, how many of them are we expecting? Because I heard you mention about this. Thank you.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you. PBS. My name is Anthony Williams. I work for the Liberia Broadcasting System. As you engage media folks here today, Liberia's achievement of passing 12 out of 22 MCC indicators from the MCC report, but also did fail in some indicators. The MCC scorecard is a story of progress, as you may know. Yet it also highlights areas where our children are most vulnerable, such as no primary education, expenditures, and lagging child health indicators. So as a voice of the presidency, especially if you must have heard from Mr. President, how does this government intend to assure a parent in a remote village that the government strategy for achieving a future MCC compact will prioritize tangible, the on-ground action with the social sectors? And also, how does the government intend to ensure that our nation's youngest citizens don't have to wait for years for basic investments needed to thrive? Thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon, Madam PPS. My name is Yubini Masare and I work for Sky Communications, Sky FM and Sky Television. Back to the buses issue. The President talked about motorcycle riders do not have the future, meaning that you will not be riding motorcycle in Richmond, even their children. So others are taking it differently. That the President immigrated the motorcycles riders. And from there, the President also talked about the Zogos, about some of the developmental issues that have been in the country, most especially the energy sector, where you see street lights everywhere, that the Zogos have not satisfied, or they're not feeling good about him putting light poles everywhere where they will not be able to go and just attack citizens. So what is the president doing? Also, the third part is about people that were booing the president yesterday when he was taking a ride from NTA to that of his office here at the executive mansion. What is the president saying about these people that were just booed? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all for this question. Let me start with Punch about the financing of the different programs and projects. You know how public financing works. Sometimes, in most instances, government gets in partnership with institutions to be able to fund certain programs and projects, inclusive of long-term or strategic infrastructure projects. So for this particular one, it's been that, as the president mentioned, that it's been a financing agreement, but the government, so the government could take loans from the bank and then pays over time based on our budgetary allocation. But ultimately, it's the government that will pay for whatever it acquires, the buses, the yellow machines, and everything else. But they all come through the payment from the government, but over time, because some of these projects, the manufacturers or the people who are producing these things, they want they want the resources as soon as possible. So in terms of the plan, so sometimes bank normally serves as quote unquote collateral to be able to get resources. Sometimes they pay their payment term, but regardless of how it turns out, their contract that is agreed upon, and then based on the contract, they're able to implement it in that light. In terms of smaller buses, yes, the buses that you saw yesterday, they're the bigger buses. And again, like I mentioned, of the president's plan to do more or to improve transportation. So again, they're all part of the transportation sector in the plan. The smaller buses, the one that's able to go into smaller communities, the one that can go, from counties to counties, but structurally now. So the smaller ones come, how they will say we get smaller one for this other purpose, we get shorter one for this other one, in that. I just want to connect that with Eugenia's comment or question about the SIM buses situation. Again, as I've mentioned, Eugenia stepped out, but as I've mentioned, again, the president sees all his citizens in the same light, that he's going to work for everybody, regardless of what you say to him, how you see him, whether or not you disagree with him. So whether you cheer or you booed or you say something, but again, we live in a democracy, in a democratic space. That, in fact, it even shows that Liberia is growing democratically, that Liberia is improving in terms of dissent. People with dissenting opinion in other places or in time past, you would have seen police or maybe the security people around the president would have gotten from their vehicles to run after those people or to create something, maybe arrest people and all of that. But this is the level of freedom that President Bouaka is harnessing in our country, that you can wake up in the morning and say anything you want to say, clap or cry or whatever, and nobody coming chasing after you, especially if you're doing things in the confines of the law. You're not throwing things, you're not hurting people, you're not, committing a crime. Once you are expressing your views in a public disagreement way, you're welcome. And this is the country that President Bouaka is building. And the interesting part about the conversation, people who were not even there, people were even like frowning, how can people boo development? And it goes to say those who are doing that, the people, their own neighbors, their own friends are questioning them, It's not that. And in fact, people are even asking, so as you're going now, would you get on the bus? Or would you, if you're an older person, would you ride freely? Or if your kids were underage or a student, would they want to ride freely? So again, that's the democratic space that our president is harnessing and he's nurturing. People must dissent. If you want to dissent, you can do that. Nobody will chase after you. But the bigger picture is that there were more people who were happy. There were more people who were clapping. There were more people who were excited, who are lined up for the first time to see the president riding a public vehicle, but also to see the level of work he's done under 2 years. So the positive for him is more than the negative. And that's from that line he wants to see that. That was for Eugenia question. On the aspect of the MCC scorecard, of course, it's progress. There have been challenges in areas, and those areas, and the thing about looking at the MCC numbers, MCC will tell you this percentage you made. It doesn't mean you've not done anything in those areas. For example, the areas that were highlighted as to not doing anything in those areas, you will see that there are percentages that have been allotted. It means you're doing something, but you've not reached to a benchmark that will allow you to make a pass or a successful pass. So the onus now is on the government. This is something that the president is looking at keenly, to work hard in those specific areas that were looked at as not getting a good mark. But there are places too, and where I want us to also look at where the government really did extremely well in terms of making a higher pass. And I like to also connect that with the issue of access to information. Access to information, or the information component of the scores, the government did extremely well. That means we're doing well in providing information to our people, and the country is doing well in opening up the space, because you listen now, you have more radio stations that are registered, more newspapers that are registering, more people having access to the president when he comes to places, interviewing and talking, and doing a lot of things. And we're here for the first time, we've been able to do a regular press briefing from the presidency. Every week we update the country on what the president is doing, and the radio programs, the public information programs that are out there that people are hearing, and people can even, talk about the things the president is doing. And radio talk shows now, things that the president will do are becoming the key talking points, for different, platforms. So it makes it look as if that Liberia is doing very well in that area. In the other areas that we've done well, of course, the government takes seriously the areas that they have not done well or we've not done well in, and the president is committed to working with his team to ensure that, that happens. But all of this, the overall is that Liberia did pass, and we'll hope that this come to a point where by this pass, we're able to have access to the resources or the money that will be given to the country. Hopefully the team at the Ministry of Finance, Development Planning, doing all they can to put in the right systems, to put in the right plans and programs that will be able to have access to the loan and the institutional sectors that have not done well, to work with them to strengthen the systems of reporting and strengthen the system of ensuring that, as you mentioned, the parent in the community, that child who was hoping to have a better life because of this, but all is not lost. It doesn't mean we've not done anything, just that we've not done sufficient or substantively well to be able to pass the benchmark. That's where we are. On the issue of denigrating motorcyclists, the president will never denigrate any of her citizens, but the president is a statesman. He's a father, he's a grandfather, he's a great-grandfather to some. And when he spoke about looking at the sustainability of being a motorcyclist for a long time. Motorcycle riding here in Liberia is a vulnerable employment system. Yes, it's something that can give you short-term resources, but also seeing how our brothers ride. And if you go to the hospitals, for example, there are lots of accident cases. People have had, accidents, our brothers, and even the way sometimes they comport themselves in the communities, sometimes it becomes challenging. So when the president talked about riding motorbike is not sustainable, he was very clear. He was honest, being an honest man. The thing with Liberian people, everybody just wants you to be politically correct or sugarcoat things. But for him, he doesn't sugarcoat anything. He speaks from his heart. And he was speaking because he meant it. He meant it that he's working to get motorcyclists out of the street, put them into a structure and system that they're able to have employment that are sustainable, that they can take care of their families in a safe manner. For example, some of the reason why he brought up this conversation, one of the other plans that he had was to see how, because the fact that motorcyclists are interested in transportation sector, is to see how he can connect some of them to the buses he's bringing, train some of them, become drivers, take some of them off the street for motorcycle riding and put them in the vehicle system, the bus, the public transportation, and all of that. And that's from that context he was speaking, but he didn't mean it to mean that he was looking down on them or he was denigrating them, and all of that. Talking of, excuse me, talking about Zogos are not happy. Normally when the president speaks, he speaks like an elderly statesman and a person with lots of wisdom. So when he's speaking, he will normally bring some things he will say innuendos or anecdote or, anecdote and talking some things and jokes and something to cheer people up or to make side comments and make people laugh. If you sit with the president for 30 minutes or even less, you always find a light moment in the conversation. And this talking about Zogos were not happy. It's just one of those light moments because, of course, they say, oh, yeah, they say the electricity is too much now that it's not dark again so people can see them. And of course, he meant that in a light way. But he's been working with the Ministry of Youth and Sports, for example, and institutions that are working with at-risk youth to take them off the street, and also with the grand plan of ensuring that young people have employment opportunities, because again, employment, creating jobs have been a challenge, and that's why he's working with his team to make that a major issue and work on it to find gainful employment for young people, inclusive of those in the streets. Any?
Thank you, Madam. Yes, Anthony Williams here again. And I wanted to make a follow-up on a previous inquiry regarding the MCC scorecard and government efforts in probably picking up the scores in the areas where they have failed as per the report. But again, Madam PBS, Critics point out that a previous administration scored 14 intervention. So while 10 other indicators, including crucial areas like government effectiveness, have got some lower marks, how does the presidency reconcile the celebration of 12 indicator pass with the reality that the country has regressed from a previous high mark and can now clearly articulate how the government's compact strategy for energy and infrastructure will simultaneously deliver the deep institutional reforms that the government is working on?
Great question. So here is how I will put it so that the people we're speaking to will understand. So imagine, Anthony, you were supposed to graduate from college. You've done all you can, and you have you gotten 70. 70 is the benchmark. You know, if you get 69, you're not going to graduate. And it turns out you got 70. What would you do? Of course, you'll celebrate. Even if you'll be the last because it's graduation day. So I'm saying this to mean that we're working hard so that Liberia can again come back to a team compact. And for the president and the team at the Ministry of Finance is to really do all the team can to ensure that Liberia pass, at least at the minimum. Just do your best and get there so that when you're there, you're able to do well. Because, you know, the country, this government has inherited a lot from the past administration, reconnecting many things. And talking about the history of successes. Yes, people, again, like I said, there will always be critics. And I really don't like to focus on the critics, you know, of you know, when you're doing things to say the critics will always be there. But what is important is that if we're looking at the past administration, this is this government second year in office, going to the conclusion of the second year. And they say, oh, the past administration got 14. But let's see, when the past administration got there, what was their mark? Did they pass? Of course, there's been a history of failures, history of consistent failure. So if we say we're going to compare our success to the people who have consistently failed, they only passed one time, I mean, there's no comparison. That's why I said there's no need to be comparing past administration. And on the question of connecting it to energy and the infrastructure project that this government is really looking forward to, I think is something that will mean well. Access to road and electricity can help in many sectors, even with the challenges of just where we've not been able to make good marks. So I like to just say, I was going to child health, for example. In child health, we got 36%. So one of the other issues of child health connects to electricity. Some of our health facilities do not have proper electricity. Some of our health facilities, because to even you have the storage, the issue of storage of medication, storage of high core usage of other things, you go to the counties, some places, it's challenging. So it's important that these infrastructure projects are linked to, you know, the bigger plan. So places that we girls education, we got 25%. And these are things that all connect to the infrastructure project. So again, with the government and with the Ministry of Finance and Development office, the minister, the deputy ministers, the assistant ministers who are working on this particular program, the compact, they're working very hard, I can say, because I've had an opportunity to really engage some of them and engage the minister on this. And I feel that we do have the best of team to be able to work with the World Bank, all financial institutions, whether it's the World Bank, whether it's the MCC, whether it's the International Financial Institution, and, you know, and all those people who are working on our financial portfolio. It's important that once we're able to clear these things, we're able to show that as a country, we have these structures in place to attain these resources, we can be able to do well with it. And I trust, and I'm sure the president also very, very much so, that's why he's the Minister of Finance, Development Planning, trust the judgment and workings of the minister and his team to be able to take us there. And the president and his team not sleeping. They also, you also have called his people to see what we can do better in the areas, especially in job creation, because amongst all of this core, the lowest is actually in job creation. And he himself has alluded to that. That's why even his comment on Zogo is to see what he can do to improve the areas for job creation for our people. So I'll stop here. I'm sure that's all the questions you have. Or one more. All right, the U.S. stream. Welcome back.
Thank you. My name is Billy. I want to draw your attention to the national budget. The Integrity Watch Liberia had an orientation for the legislature or the House of Representatives today. And the chairman of Ways, Means and Finance, Honorable P. Marjorie, emphasized on what is that the Transport Ministry will be projecting something around 10 million plus. And the NPA, which is the gateway to our economy, sometimes when they give something like 2 million, they are posting all around. And they have not given much to the national budget. So is the president concerned about some of the areas, most especially the autonomous agencies like the NPA, the LTA, the LPRC, and others? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Eugene. Sure.
So, thank you, Madam. This one will not be long. Just the other day, and I don't want to take us back necessarily, but just the other day, when Mr. President returned from attending a state visit in France upon the invitation of his counterpart, President Macron, I asked him about follow-up mechanism because you are aware Mr. President held several key investment meetings out there, especially with Mendef. Mendef, one of the French largest employment enterprise. I was concerned about follow-up mechanism. And Mr. President responded right on the spot, directing me to members of his cabinet that the board is now in the court to go after some of those engagements that were held. Any update from my question regarding efforts on making sure that the cabinet can ensure that some of these meetings that were held can start yielding fruitful results in the soonest possible time?
Thank you, and I will start with that one, Anthony. Absolutely, the president, and that's why I appeared on one of the local radio the other day to talk about the president's visit and what he's brought, quote unquote, what he's brought, and the follow-up mechanisms. Of course, the president is clear on follow-up plans, and those who are in charge of that, they normally in those international engagement is the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and I can say there have been a number of different follow-ups that have happened, and is again there very much a lot of things again like I mentioned that have happened since then, since his return, and they briefed him. He's normally briefed as to where those conversations are and what's happening, and at the appropriate time or in the soonest possible time you will hear those specifics as to what the plan between France and Liberia and even the UAE and Liberia, what have been the outcomes or what are some of the things that will be happening soon. But I can just say there have been a number of conversations around plans and MOU to be able to see the different areas of collaboration between our development plan and France development plan, and where the both teams meet and can be able to talk about that. To you, when this point as to contribution to the national budget, even the way you see that this year's national budgets have gone up to $1 billion plus, is specifically based on those conversations. The president has his economic management team that they meet regularly to update on where the country is, as to even revenue projections as to where we can get more resources. You also heard recently of the president's directive of officials to, pay taxes and whatnot. So there have been strategies around ensuring that resources are garnered for the national budget. So as to who specifically pay and what they pay to the national budget, whether the Ministry of Transport is paying more than the others, again, the financial management team or the economic management team of the president, they're reviewing that, and they'll be able to update the president as to plans and why certain institutions are paying this and what they can do to ensure that the revenue generating institutions also contribute their fair share to the national budget. It's a conversation that's happening. I can inform you that it's a conversation that's happening, whether it's the LPRC, the National Port Authority, the RIA, and others that receives revenue or resources to be able to contribute substantively to the national budget. So as to specifically how much each will pay, when that conversation is to be made, if it's to be made for public consumption, definitely you'll hear from us here at the Executive Mansion or even the Ministry of Information as well. So again, thank you all for coming as always. I look forward to connecting with you again, and have a wonderful afternoon. Good afternoon.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel